today's project diary I will teach you how to grow potatoes in containers.
Hi and welcome to Project Diaries. In today's video I'm going to teach you how to grow potatoes in containers. Now there's a few people online saying you can't actually do this from shop bought potatoes and you need to buy a seed potato, but I've done this in the past from shop bought and I know you can do it, but it could be for countries such as America that put sort of anti-sprouting and certain chemicals and pesticides onto their fruit and vegetables to stop them growing. If you are, try to get organic. If not, give them a really good wash and a scrub, and then all you need to do is leave these in somewhere cool and dry for about 4 weeks, and then it will start sprouting. You don't want to put them into the ground before they start sprouting because they might not grow at all. So you just want to sprout them, and then I'll show you how to do the next step.
Now the correct term for sprouting potatoes is called chitting. Now these sprouts come from a part of the potato called the eye. You can use the whole potato as a seed potato, but if you don't have many you can cut them in sections. Just make sure there's at least one eye per piece. Once you've cut them into sections, it's advisable to allow this part to dry and harden over a 24-hour period. This is called healing, and it will stop the seed potato rotting once you've planted them.
So instead of using loads of homemade compost, I'm going to try an experiment. So today I'm going to use one of the highest forms of nitrogen and the highest forms of carbon mixed together to see if I can make a super compost. So I've been down to my local sawmill and my coffee and the local coffee shop. So I'm using sawdust and coffee grounds. Hopefully by now you've seen my compost video, so you should know that compost should be turned at least once a week. So I'm making my life easy with 2 different bins. Now I've used 50% coffee grounds and 50% sawdust by weight. So coffee grounds should come to about here, and they're 3/4 sawdust. So now I just need to turn them. So I'm going to go wet the top first.
Now usually you would have to wait for compost to break down over a huge number of months, but because this is so fine it will break down almost immediately and you can use it straight away. But what I am going to do is mix these between the 2 bins about 6 or 7 times to make sure the coffee's really mixed up with the sawdust. Every time I'm going to turn it I'm going to make sure that the bottom's wet, and this will help it mix up and break down quicker. So here it is after I've turned it 6 times. You can see that the mixture's just moist enough but not too dry or too wet, and it's already starting to look like a really nice soil. Now if you're unable to source these materials you can use multi-purpose compost, but you will need to fertilise once a month. If you want to success growing potatoes on your first time you need to make sure that the soil is really loose. If you're just using garden dirt and it's packed down too tight, this will stop any big tubers forming. Next up, choose your container. Now you can use your imagination as much as you like with these. Potatoes are happy to grow in most deep containers, such as old potato sacks, 5-gallon buckets, or any large bags. Just make sure they have loads of holes in the bottom for good drainage.
So potatoes need a system called earthing up, so you need a fairly tall pot or container. Now what you need to do is just lay a couple of inches of soil at the bottom, put the seed potatoes in, and then cover it by about another 2 or 3 inches of soil. What's going to happen is the plant's going to come through the soil, and when you see the leaves you're going to mound it up again with another 2 or 3 inches of soil, and so on and so forth until it gets all the way up to the top. You can't just plant these in a deep pot and expect them to grow. What happens is the seed potato starts putting out sprouts, and then more and more potatoes grow as it tries to scramble for some sunlight. So I'm just going to put some soil in now and put some drainage holes in the bottom. I'm going to do that now.
Now I've seen a lot of people online try an elaborate system called the potato tower. These are systems where potatoes are earthed up to about 4 to 6 feet. Now the green leaves will stretch to these kind of heights, but it's very unlikely you'll produce any potatoes over 20 to 25 inches. Any deeper than the one I'm using today will just make the soil become too heavy and packed down and won't produce any more potatoes. Once the drainage holes are done, you just want to fill the soil up to around here, around 2 or 3 inches all over. The only reason why you need 2 or 3 inches on the base is because the potatoes will grow upwards and not down. Also, if you are going to try this compost recipe at home, don't forget to mix in used coffee grounds and not raw coffee grounds. Despite what some people keep saying about used coffee grounds, they are actually pH neutral, which means this soil won't be too acidic to grow potatoes. Also, make sure the sawdust has come from untreated wood that hasn't previously been painted or stained. Once you finish that, the next step is planting your seed potatoes. Now if you have cut yours into pieces, you need to get the sprouts pointing upwards, but as I've got sprouts coming out of both sides, it doesn't really matter. Now if you're using a larger potato variety, you need to space these around 6 or 7 inches apart, but as these are smaller, I'm just going to make these 3 or 4 inches apart. Once you've laid out all your seed potatoes, you then need to cover them with pre-moistened soil around 4 or 5 inches deep. Now the reason why I'm pre-moistening the soil before is because you don't want to use too much water at the beginning. There's enough water in the seed potato to help it grow at the start. If the seed potatoes end up sitting in too much water, they could rot before they start growing. Just use a trowel to level out the soil evenly, and that's pretty much it for starting your first potato bin. Now the best time for sowing your seed potatoes are about 2 weeks after your last frost date, just when spring starts warming up. Now depending on what your weather's like, these might need watering every 3 to 4 days. Here they are after 3 weeks. Now these will seem slow at the beginning, but they will start shooting out pretty quickly once they start. Just checking under here, you can slightly see them all pushing through, but I'm going to leave them another week before I earth them up. You want them around 4 inches tall before you add more soil. Here they are 4 weeks in, and as you can see, a lot more have sprouted. Now these aren't quite 4 inches tall, but as it's such a lovely day, I'm going to earth these up anyway. Then spread the soil out evenly over the bucket. Add enough soil around the leaves in order not to pack them down, but just cover it enough so the tips of the leaves are showing. Here they are again 6 weeks in, and you just repeat the same process. Again, make sure the soil is around the leaves and not just dumped on top to pack them down. Now depending on what variety you choose, potatoes could be ready to harvest between 70 and 120 days. Now here's a really good sign for if you've got good compost. Earthworms are a gardener's best friend. They'll use the coffee grounds to break down their food, and any of their droppings will help fertilise the potatoes. Here they are again at 8 weeks. Now they're looking really healthy and growing really well. As you can see, they're just tall enough to start that process all over again, but I won't need to show you that because you've seen it already. So here they are again at 10 weeks. Now unfortunately this spring has given us some really random weather, and a few days ago we even had a frost. As you can see here, it's really affecting the growth process on these potatoes now. If bad weather happens to you, don't be too disheartened. This damage may affect the amount of potatoes you grow, but you should still have a really tasty harvest in a week or two. So I have been wanting to do this update for the past 3 weeks, but we've had absolutely torrential rain and I've just not been able to get out in the garden. As you can see, it's really affected the potatoes, and I don't know if you can see this bit. I'll give you a close-up. These brown spots are actually a fungus, and due to the fact I couldn't keep applying my homemade fungicide, it just meant that it just took over this entire patch. Now I do have another one in the shed that's growing really well. The leaves are really green and everything's great, and I did have another one at the back of the garden, and that's been attacked by slugs again due to the rain. So here's what they should look like. Hopefully yours are looking roughly the same at this stage as well. So if you want to maximise your harvest and have big potatoes, you want to make sure that all these leaves are starting to die back and going brown. Now it's crucial to get your watering right. You don't want it too wet and have the potatoes sitting in soggy soil, and you also don't want it too dry, because this could cause your potatoes to rot or become diseased. Now other than the treatable little brown spots that I showed you earlier, here are some other things you need to look out for. This disease is called alternaria. It's mainly a soil-borne fungus that's been a global disease for many years. It loves to grow and spread in warm and wet periods, and if left untreated it could significantly affect the harvest by 30% and cause dramatic leaf loss. It's also known as early blight, which is the same disease you can get on tomatoes. If you're interested in growing tomatoes, here's my video playlist on everything you need to know. The potatoes themselves can also be affected by many things and diseases such as warts, scabs, skin spots, scuffs, and many forms of rotting such as pink rot, brown rot, dry rot and late blight. If your potatoes don't look healthy, I wouldn't advise eating them. Also, if they're green, definitely don't eat them. These are poisonous. This means they haven't been earthed up enough through the growing process, and they've grown too close to the top of the soil, exposing them to too much sunlight. Also look out for pests such as aphids, striped cucumber beetles and potato beetles.
But hopefully this has given you some good ideas. If you want to see my harvest video, check this link out now. And if not, good luck growing potatoes at home. It is really easy, honestly, if you have the right conditions. But anyway, take care, and I'll see you again next time.
If you'd like to subscribe and keep up to date with all of my future releases, click the button here. These are some links to some of my other videos. Also, if you've tried this or any of my other projects, please join my Facebook gardening group where thousands of people are sharing ideas and photos daily. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.